right. So we are going to be talking about chapters 1 and 2 today, and I hope to finish them. Okay? We're going to start with the chapter 1, specifically talking about scientific notation, chemistry, fairly basic stuff. So, unlike physics that does not concern itself with the composition of the compounds, chemistry does. And it studies composition, structure, properties, and reactions of the matter. Okay? And obviously, human life is based on the chemistry. So the term composition refers to the question what the compound is made of. The term structure, how this compound is put together, how are atoms or ions or molecules oriented within that compound. Properties, what characteristics does it have, what is its melting point, what is its boiling point, optical characteristics, we can go on, density, we can go on and on and on. And finally, when we talk about reactions, we talk about the interactions of certain compounds with other substances. So chemistry effectively studies matter. Matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. Okay? So, even though we tend to think, like this room is empty, if we all leave and take all the chairs and tables out, we think, the room's empty. It is not, it is filled with air, which is matter. Okay? Now, chemicals are substances. So what is the difference? Why is toothpaste, in that example, cannot be considered chemical is because it is a mixture of many. And the composition of different toothpastes can be different. However, many toothpastes contain calcium fluoride. I'm going to make sure that my pen is better next time. Calcium fluoride. Calcium fluoride is going to have this chemical formula no matter which toothpaste we're looking for. Okay? Calcium hydrophosphate is going to have the same formula in every individual toothpaste. So these are chemicals. This isn't. Okay? So a very important feature of a chemical is that it has same composition and same properties, no matter where this chemical is. So calcium fluoride is the same composition and the same properties whether it is in your teeth or in the jar in a chemical laboratory or it is in the toothpaste. So which of these four contain chemicals? What do you think? Say it out loud. It's not a problem.
Could it be C?
Of course, milk, yes. Anything else?
I'm not sure.
D, of course. Yeah. B, yeah. All of them contain chemicals, right? When you think about a chemical or a chemical compound, it doesn't necessarily have to be made by humans. Fructose in an apple is a chemical. It's not made by humans. Okay? Now, when we study the world around us, we use scientific method. I would go on a long tangent if we would have more time. I want you to understand something. When we talk about scientific method, it is not a system of beliefs. It is a system of rules. We agreed that one way to understand the environment is by scientific method. Does it impose restrictions on our understanding? Yes. But scientific method provides us evidence-based and rational explanations of natural phenomena. So, scientific method is, as it says here, set of general principles. Now, it helps to describe how a scientist thinks. I think that statement is a little bit backwards. If you think of it this way, if you enter a soccer field but decide that you're going to follow football rules, that's going to be kind of a shit show, right? So scientific method is effectively a set of rules that guides every scientist in the explorations. So first, it's an observation. You observe any natural phenomena, and you formulate a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a statement, effectively, that you make that will explain or not your observations. So hypothesis must have two qualities. If you formulate a hypothesis that is impossible to check experimentally, the value is, as you can imagine, pretty limited, right? So, I'm blanking on the word, English word, it's on the tip of my tongue. Not falsifiable. Okay, so you should be able, let's say testable. I remember the word is verifiable. Okay? You should be able to design an experiment reasonably, okay? Doesn't necessarily mean that you can ethically or financially do it, but there's got to be a way to design an experiment. And then another important thing is the hypothesis has to be falsifiable. This is something that folks often overlook. It means that your experiment should be able to produce a result that will go against your hypothesis. Do you understand what I'm saying? So paradoxically, the value of science is that it can be wrong. For instance, the hypothesis that explained the gravitational pull was scientific because Newton said, okay, if we drop a pencil and a 45-pound dumbbell from the roof, they're going to reach the ground at the same time. Was there a possible outcome that would falsify his hypothesis? Sure. If they wouldn't reach the ground at the same time, there you go, that's possible outcome. Okay? The non-scientific area of human knowledge, maybe, you may be familiar with Sigmund Freud, a psychoanalyst from Austria, I think. He could explain any human behavior. Did it work clinically? Pretty much, yeah. But it wasn't scientific because there was no human behavior that his theory could not explain. And lack of falsifiability means that it's not a scientific theory. Experiments, obviously, you do experiments to support or, falsify your hypothesis, and you come to a conclusion based on the data. And one of the most important, so small digression, I worked in science for 15 years. Like I was research scientist for 15 years. When you get the results, no matter how exciting they are, the first thing all my colleagues did to me and we did to everybody else, you look at the results and you immediately try to find an explanation that you try to test the hypothesis. You try to say, these results, do they really follow the hypothesis, or is there any other explanation? How can we test it so, can we be wrong? And if the answer is yes, yeah, good, okay? So this flow chart shows you the summary of scientific method. Now, I would add one more step because experiments give you, results. And based on the results, you modify hypothesis or maybe even reject it. Any questions on the steps of the scientific method? You should be very comfortable with that for your first exam. Now we're going to switch to very, very practical things. And first, we're going to talk about scientific notation. So obviously, if you need to write a number like 100 or even 1,000, it's not too much of a bother. But if you need to write something like this, the thickness of the human hair, writing all those zeros is very painful. Think of it this way. If you have the Avogadro number, you would have to do 22 zeros before you get to this. Okay? 22 zeros. That's a lot of zeros. So, how do we shorten it? So we move decimal point. For instance, in this case, right? We need to move decimal point to the right. The rule of thumb is that in the scientific notation, the number of digits in front to the left of the decimal point is always 1. So doing this, for example, that is not correct. You can't write this. You're not supposed to do that. Make sense? So let's move that decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps, right? Good? In which direction did we move decimal point? To the right. It means that your 10 is in the negative power of number of steps. Good? Yes? Okay. Now, in this case, in case of the second number, the decimal point is right here. So if we want to move it, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left. Okay? So it's going to be 1 multiplied by 10 in the power of 5. Because left is plus, right is minus. Do you follow me so far? Okay. So this basically shows what we just did. Okay? I can't emphasize it enough. So, for instance, can we do 5 places to the right? 2, 3, 4, 5. Can we? Oh, the beauty of English language. Of course we can. We shouldn't. Because if we move decimal point 5 steps to the right, then we're going to have 86 by 10 in the power of negative 5. Is it the same number? Yes. Yes, it is the same number, but it does not follow the rules. I want you to, it's not a warning, just I want you to understand the stuff that we're talking about. It's a bunch of dudes came together and decided how we're going to do it. Makes sense? Pretty much like we decided that at the end of the sentence, we put period. Can we decide that it's going to be a smiley face? Sure. It's just an agreement. Okay? So this shows you a bunch of different, measurements in the scientific notation. If you don't mind, I'm not going to spend too much time discussing this because, it's kind of, sort of useless. And this, I grew up without your fancy calculators. I grew up with a calculator that had 4 functions. That's it. Later, I got one that also had like squared and squared root. Refer to the instructions to your calculator to see how to do scientific notation. The only one that I want to mention, you see this and this? Like E06 is the equivalent of 10 in the power of 6 on many calculators, or E minus 04 is equivalent to 10 in the power of -4. Sounds good? But again, I'm just gonna go through this because I don't understand why we do the calculating instruction. So let's do scientific notation here. So first of all, in example A, where is the decimal point?
And then after 0.
Yeah, at the very right. How many steps should we move it? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which direction?
Left.
So 6.4, 10
Power 4.
in the power of 4 because left is positive. How many steps should we use? Should we move the decimal point in example B?
2.
So 2.1, 10 in the power of -2, yes.